All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics, focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. It's the most anticipated indictment of them all. Former President Donald Trump faces 4 charges, including conspiracy to defraud the United States in connection with his attempts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Trump was arraigned for the 3rd time this year at a federal courthouse in Washington. He spoke briefly afterwards.
When you look at what's happening, this is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America.
Well, the indictment details the pressure Trump put on Vice President and former Indiana Governor Mike Pence. Pence talked to reporters about the indictment at the Indiana State Fair less than a day after the indictment was unsealed. News 8 asked him if he would testify against Trump at the trial.
With regard to the substance of the indictment, I've been very clear. I had hoped it wouldn't come to this. I had hoped that this issue and the judgment of the president's actions that day would be left to the American people. But now it's been brought in a criminal indictment, and I can't assess whether or not the government has the evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt what they assert in the indictment, and the president's entitled to a presumption of innocence. But for my part, I want people to know that I had no right to overturn the election, and that what the president maintained that day, and frankly has said over and over again over the last 2.5 years, is completely false. And it's contrary to what our Constitution and the laws of this country provide. You know, I'm a student of American history. And the first time I heard in early December somebody suggest that as vice president I might be able to decide which votes to reject and which to accept, I knew that it was false. Our founders had just won a war against a king. And the last thing they would have done was vest unilateral authority in any one person to decide who would be the next president. I dismissed it out of hand, but sadly the president was surrounded by a group of crackpot lawyers that kept telling him what his itching ears wanted to hear.
Called upon to testify in a criminal trial of Donald Trump under this indictment. Will you do so? Well,
I testified under a subpoena before the grand jury. I'm somebody that believes in the rule of law, but look, I have nothing to hide. I have written and spoken more extensively maybe than any other American about this topic. I don't want to prejudge how that case may unfold. The president's entitled to the presumption of innocence. He's entitled to his day in court. There are profound issues surrounding this, and I have seen the weaponization of the Justice Department over the last 6.5 years. I've seen the Justice Department with the phony Russia hoax, with impeaching the president for a phone call, with the 2-tiered system of justice that we've witnessed when it comes to President Biden and his family. And I understand the frustration of all of that. And I had hoped that on this matter of January 6th that it wouldn't come to this, because I do believe that this is only going to further, I think it's only going to further ignite the divide in the country. And so my focus is going to be not on the indictment or the merits of it. There are profound issues. The president can make his case in court. But I'm going to make it clear to the American people, as I seek the Republican nomination, that despite what Donald Trump has said over the last 2.5 years, that I had no right to overturn the election. And that on that day, President Trump asked me to choose him over my oath to the Constitution. But I chose the Constitution of the United States, and I always will. Well, look, I'm working my heart out every day, traveling across this country to make sure that I'm the nominee of the Republican Party. And I have to tell you, I know what the polls say, but the truth is, what I've learned traveling around Iowa and traveling around New Hampshire and some of the other early states is that people are taking a fresh look at everybody. I think different times call for different leadership, and I remain very confident that Republican primary voters are going to give a hard look at our whole record, not just my years as vice president, but also my years as governor of Indiana, where we balanced budgets, cut taxes, achieved record employment, stood for our traditional values, expanded educational choice, but also that I was a conservative leader in the Congress for 12 years, oftentimes fighting big spenders in my own party. So I think it's early, but I remain very, very confident that Republican voters are going to choose. But in this moment surrounding this indictment, I just want people to know that I had no right to overturn the election. Irrespective of what President Trump and his attorneys have insisted over the last 2.5 years, the Constitution and our laws are clear. And that's a message that I'm going to continue to take to Republican voters who have heard that case and have accepted it, even though it has no basis in history or law. I'm very confident we're going to qualify for the first debate. Support continues to surge in. We haven't offered kickbacks or soccer tickets or gift cards. We're just accepting support at MikePence2024.com, and it's coming in strong. So I look forward to being in Milwaukee, and can't wait to have a debate about the future of the Republican Party, because elections are about the future. I mean, I think, as I said yesterday, another sad aspect of yesterday's indictment is that, frankly, many of you in the national media are going to spend the next year doing nothing other than talking about January 6th. That doesn't do anything to lower the cost of living for working families. It doesn't do anything to provide American leadership in the world at a time that war is raging in Eastern Europe and China continues to menace in the Asia Pacific. Does nothing to secure our border, does nothing to deal with the crime wave or the war on energy. So I will tell you that I look forward to being on that debate so I can talk about the vision that I have for the Republican Party going forward, that I think I'll not only be the most experienced conservative on that stage, the most qualified candidate to be the next president of the United States, but I also believe I'll be able to draw a contrast between my former running mate and others on the stage who increasingly are walking away from that time-honored conservative agenda that has built the Republican Party over the last 50 years.
All right, coming up, mayor's races across central Indiana enter their final 3 months. We hear from a candidate looking to make history. Next. Welcome back. All Indiana Politics is introducing you to the people who want to run your cities. We will feature candidates in contested elections for mayor over the next 3 months. Our government reporter Garrett Berquist kicks things off today with Ronald Merle Jr., who is running for mayor of the city of Marion.
Joining us now is Ronald Merle Jr. Ronald, thanks for dropping by today.
Glad to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
So why are you running for mayor of Marion?
I want to bring a change to the city. So it started off as the executive director for the Boys and Girls Club of Grant County, which I've been doing for a couple years. And I had a group of kids tell me that they wanted to go to the NBA, which is a common Indiana answer. And the second answer disturbed me for a backup plan. They said that if they don't make the NBA, they wanted to sell drugs. So I took it upon myself to show the future generations that you can do anything you want to right here in Marion, Indiana, and become anything you want to be, even if that's the mayor.
Tell me a little bit more about your workforce initiative.
Marion has always been a blue-collar town, so what I want to do under the workforce initiative is encourage the trades. So I grew up laying floor covering. My family owns a floor covering company, and I'm a firm believer in the trade. So I want to make Marion, let's go for the biggest, say the trades capital of Indiana, where we teach and encourage the trades and we produce high-quality trades, men and women out of our city.
Would that take the shape of a partnership more with the local school district, Ivy Tech, mixture of both?
Yes, we're looking forward to working with Ivy Tech, our local university, Indiana Wesleyan, and our local Marion community schools.
Are there any particular trades that you want to really focus on bringing back to Marion?
I like all of them, but I know the electrical trade, electricians, are something that we need. I had a chance to meet with electricians, and welders. I had a chance to meet with the local manufacturers, and they all shared the common issue that they have is finding skilled tradespeople to fill those roles. So, and welding is one of the number one things, is electricians being second. So I wanted to double down on those two.
Is there a risk that if you double down on one or two trades in particular, Marion's economy might again become too dependent on one or two industries?
I think that we have to start somewhere. So we double down on those first two, then we can continue to develop and do more, but we have to start somewhere.
What about trades in the information technology sector? Do you anticipate trying to bring some STEM or STEM-related careers into this as well?
Coding is something I think that really fits into that, and one of our local universities has just recently purchased a coding company, and I would love to partner with them to be able to teach I call them the trades of the future. We have the hand trades that we've been doing for years now, and now we need to also establish the trades of the future.
How do you convince potential employers to give Marion another look?
So one of the biggest things I hear from potential employers, even potential citizens, is they want to see our education improve. So that's why if you look at another one of my initiatives called Marion Reads, we're going to invest heavily into improving our education in the city so we can attract potential citizens and potential employers and work with the school system and local community leaders to make sure we're fostering a community where our next generation can learn.
Tell me a little bit more about how Marion Reads will work.
I had a chance to sit down with the mayor of Westfield, and I studied their Westfield Youth Assistance Program. So it would essentially mirror that mentoring program that they offer in that area, but focus specifically on literacy.
How do you see that dovetailing with the state rolling out the science of reading requirements in the schools?
So what I would love to do is work with the states on those new requirements and make sure Marion is in the prime position to be able to have our students perform the best.
You said that you want to allocate funding to remove dilapidated buildings. How do you do that? How do you move that funding around without jeopardizing more critical government functions?
So we have something in Marion called the EDIT Fund, which is Economic Development Income Tax. What I would like to do is to create an additional line item into there and move that money to our blight elimination program. So we have the funds already on our tax roll. We just have to reallocate them and have a vision to remove the blight in our city.
How many blighted properties would you target under this?
So great. So I would obviously love to get all of them, but our budget will be limited to I would like to allocate $500,000 and do as many as we can underneath that money.
Would you use eminent domain?
I'm not opposed to it or committed to that. It's something I'll have to look into more.
If elected, you would be the first black mayor of Marion. Do you attach any significance to that, particularly given Marion's history?
I definitely think it's important, and the citizens of Marion think it's important as well. It's not my number one focus. My number one focus is how can we do what's best for the entire city of Marion. I understand what that means historically, and we're going to celebrate when it's time, but the ultimate focus is how can we do what's best for the city of Marion and for all of its people.
What makes you the best candidate for the job in this race?
Because I'm passionate, I'm willing to work hard, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make sure Marion is back on the map and let everyone know in the state of Indiana and nationwide that we're open for business.
Coming up, Indiana's best political team makes sense of a historic indictment and Mike Pence's role in it. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in two members of Indiana's best political team, Democrat Ariel Brandy and Republican Whitley Yates. Let's begin with that indictment, ladies, of former President Donald Trump. Whitley, the indictment spells out in detail how Trump and his lawyers tried to overturn the election. Is this going to boost him further in the primary, or will this be the tipping point?
So it's a really interesting question. I think it's going to boost him with people who support him because they're looking at the current justice system, specifically the Biden administration, as weaponizing different agencies and organizations against a political opponent. So they're looking at this as persecutory. So yet another indictment is just more persecution of former President Trump. On the other side, people who didn't support him before and were leaning or less likely to support him are probably going to look at this and say, it's a little too convoluted, whether he did it or didn't do it. He has too much going on for him to be focused on America when everyone else is focused on his indictment.
Ariel, how do you see President Biden using these indictments to divert criticism maybe away from himself in the campaign? And is there a risk that this indictment fires up Trump supporters enough to maybe put him back in the Oval Office?
I think that everyone is realizing that this is just like a really sad situation for our country. I mean, our democracy is in jeopardy. We have someone who has literally not followed the legal system whatsoever. So I'm really hoping that this will play out for Americans to be able to have faith in the system again and to be able to believe in some kind of presidential campaign that can actually be run on decency. But then it also will, I think, inspire voters to realize that they can actually go vote for people who follow the law. And that will be something that will get people ignited and fired up about participating in 2024. I don't think that it's really going to excite the Trump base any more than what it already has. I think that it does play into the hands of giving Biden an opportunity to be able to show that, democracy is in shambles right now and we have a way to be able to fix it. So I'm just going to let the legal system play out, and hopefully folks will take, what they're seeing right now with this indictment to the ballot box and actually elect leaders who are going to follow the rule of law.
And we'll see as the months and even the year or so moves on. Former Vice President and Indiana Governor Mike Pence has been very vocal that the pressure Trump put on him and his refusal to do Trump's bidding. Ariel, is this going to be enough to maybe overcome perceptions among anti-Trump conservatives that he was Trump's right-hand man?
I think Mike Pence is trying everything he can right now to really separate himself from Trump and the administration and the indictment and everything that's happening. I don't know if it's going to be enough for him, but I see that he's trying to pull out all the stops, specifically being here back in Indiana and being at the fairgrounds and trying to get people around him. But from what I heard, I mean, the base wasn't too vibrant or different or diverse to really pull in what I think he needs in order to be able to be successful in his next race. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. But right now, I just see how he's really trying to separate himself in hopes that it will, carry his campaign. Will it? Not really sure right now.
Yeah, to that point, Whitley, Pence has hinted he might even be willing to testify against Trump at trial. Do you think he would? And if he does, would it help or hurt his own campaign?
So I want to go back to something Ariel said in Pence trying to separate himself. The truth is he doesn't have to separate himself because honestly, President Trump separated him when they were calling for him to be hung. Like whether or not Pence wants to be separated is irrelevant because you saw the actions of what his running mate and or president when he was the vice president did and what the supporters were willing to do when it came to Pence. And so I think that, I'm going to be honest, after reading his book and hearing what he's saying, they are in alignment. He's been saying this. It's just no one has been listening. And now that the indictment is here, people are paying a little bit closer attention to what he's been saying. Do I think that he will indeed testify? I do not think that he will indeed testify against Trump. I think that he'd be willing to. In my personal opinion, getting caught up in the firestorm that you're saying is going to distract Americans, to me, is not a viable campaign strategy. I think he should propel with his vision for America and what his presidency would be like and focus on what's hitting Americans' wallets and these kitchen table topics and kind of stay away from all of the chaos and confusion that is surrounding what's happening.
We'll see if he certainly does testify. Of course, that will be a talker as well. Closer to home, ladies, Indiana's abortion ban still held up in court. A last-minute filing by the ACLU, as you very well know, kept it from taking effect on August 1st. Whitley, between this and the ongoing religious freedom lawsuit, what's the likelihood the abortion ban never maybe takes effect?
That is not likely. I think it will take effect. And I think that we as a state in Indiana should be prepared to push and to shift from being pro-life to pro-livelihood and supporting not only just that infant, but the mother, and that's wraparound services, and that is prenatal and postnatal care for mothers, as well as infants. I think that we need to be supporting foster and adoption and all of these other areas to support the livelihood of the children that are going to be here and future Hoosiers.
Ariel, I have a minute left. Take us home on that topic.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I do think that if we are going to be a state that is going to move in this direction, unfortunately, we are going to have to focus on making sure that we're providing good healthcare options for mothers if that is the choice that they are choosing to make. But there's also the counter where we could be looking at a ballot initiative. Like, why are we not moving in the direction of the states that are surrounding us? Michigan, soon to be Ohio, Kentucky, where we're putting this on the ballot for the voters to actually be able to decide and not leaving it in the hands of the legislators to make those decisions for us. I mean, I'm still going to push as much as possible for us to still be able to be a state that can offer safe and legal abortion. I do believe that women have the right to be able to choose what is right for them, and we should be leading like our neighboring states and providing voters with the opportunity to be able to do so.
Ladies, good conversation. Good to see you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will be right back. Thank you.
Take All Indiana Politics on the go with you. Download our podcast now. Part of the All Indiana Podcast Network and allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
All right, thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. You can also find our brand new All Indiana Politics podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network at wishtv.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.